So that probably ties in a little bit to, and we spoke about this in the other pod as well, the self-awareness element. How do we identify whether it's a social situation, whether it's like self-sabotage? How do we create this awareness to be able to actually understand what's happening in front of us? Because so much of it, and we were talking off camera earlier, so much of our behavior is subconscious.
Yeah.
You don't go out with the intent to have the 4 wines.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm not going to drink tonight. Ah, fuck. Whoops.
Yeah. The slippery slope.
Yeah,
I had the
yeah.
one. Now I'm just going all out.
Yeah, and then ate like shit the next day. And like, how do you create the self-awareness to see those patterns either reflectively or ideally proactively before they happen?
Yeah. I think, and we did speak about it on the last podcast, but sitting in reflection, you will understand your triggers and you will understand, do you eat when you're stressed? Do you drink on the weekends with your friends when you've had a big week or you're not achieving, you've jumped on the scales and you haven't achieved what you wanted to do, so you think, whatever, like it's not worth it. So you jump into that self-sabotage. So being able to sit and reflect, and I think this is really good when you work with a PT, is that you've got that accountability on like, okay, what's working, what's not working, where do we need to pivot? But then taking it that one layer deeper and go, okay, how have I been showing up for my goals?
Yeah.
How have I been showing up in my mindset? So what's holding me back? What's sabotaging me? What's pushing me forward? Like I'm really good at just like getting up in the morning and going to the gym. But when I get there, I don't know what I'm doing. So then I overthink and then I just leave.
Yeah.
And then understanding all of the different layers of like, okay, what went well, what you need to change, what went well in your mindset, where did you self-sabotage, what are the patterns and behaviors, and how can you actually build structure around those? So for example, if you know that you accidentally have that one drink and then it turns into 5 drinks and you end up eating Uber Eats all day on a Sunday, which happens all day on a Sunday, can you drive?
Yeah.
To the event?
Yeah.
And not of the basis of like, I can leave my car anywhere, but like what barriers can you put in place to help you to actually achieve what you want to achieve? And when you sit in reflection and actually identify that like, okay, when I go out with X person, I always end up drinking.
Yeah.
I've got a rubber arm with that person. So really reflecting and understanding, okay, what are the triggers? How are you showing up? What are you telling yourself? And then being able to course correct before it goes too far. And you can obviously reflect daily or weekly, but I would, if you're not already reflecting, put it in at least once a week to make sure that you're not bringing those same patterns and behaviors into the following week, because you're just going to end up falling off the bandwagon because you're like, well, last week was a write-off. I haven't really got back into it till Tuesday, Wednesday because I'm hungover on the Sunday. And then that week's gone and I'll just start next week or I'll start on Monday. And that kind of all or nothing mindset comes into it. And it's obviously not conducive to be able to actually achieve your results.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned discipline a couple of times in earlier.
Yeah.
There's a trend of like discipline versus motivation, and that drama's been beaten for forever.
Yeah.
I like this idea that there's like a third step, which is like identity. And the clients that I have seen over the last 15 years do really well are the ones that identify as someone that goes to the gym, someone that eats well, someone that eats their protein. Like even the conversation at the start, like I identify as a coffee drinker. Yeah. Like it's like that's
I am a chai drinker.
part of the way that I behave, right? So do you subscribe to that? And then we spoke about, again in the other pod, Be Do Have. How does someone go from, so like even the girls I work with now, a lot of them I'm sort of like, one of them's a competitor that's competed a few times. Yeah. But only switches it on during comp prep. It does powerlifting. Yeah. And then the rest of the time's kind of like, we'll miss a workout here. Maybe I'll go do a run over there. And then nutrition's kind of a bit, and then it's like, we're 10 weeks out. Yeah. And like everything just comes in because it's like, there's a timeline. This all and she becomes the power lifter for 10 weeks and then it goes away. Yeah. So for her, it's been like, I need you to start identifying yourself as an athlete 52 weeks a year. Yeah. How do we do that? Other than me just telling her.
So I think this also comes back to her why.
Mm-hmm.
So why does she actually want to be a power lifter? And does she want to identify as a power lifter 52 weeks of the year? Because what you want her to do versus what she wants to do is always going to,
of course,
butt heads.
Yeah.
I think if you're saying to her, okay, your why for powerlifting is, yes, it happens 10 weeks of the year.
Yeah.
But it's built in the rest of the year. Understanding her why on like, why does she do powerlifting? Does it make her feel confident? What is the actual why behind it? And then backtracking it to be like, okay, you don't need to be as disciplined as what you were for those 10 weeks. However, we can't go from one extreme to the next. And I think for her to really understand the reasoning why from your perspective on how it impacts the thing that she wants, which is that 10 weeks of powerlifting and win the competition or whatever it is, will help her to recalibrate her identity outside of that 10-week period, because you can turn things on and off, right? Like if you really want to do something, you can go hard and you believe that you're going to do it and you just do it.
Yeah.
It's when you start going, okay, I identify as a powerlifter 10 weeks of the year, but I identify as someone who has more fluid life the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And the reason I do that is because that is so intense that I don't want to do that.
Live there all the time,
which is okay. There's a time for hustling and time for rest. But if you want her to identify as an athlete, you need to rewire her belief system in terms of, okay, what is the actual reason that you don't keep up some level of consistency? Why don't you find discipline? Is it because you burn yourself out in those 10 weeks and then you think, I need a rest, and then it's hard to get back on? Is it because you actually don't like training that much, but you do like the competition side? Like really really discovering the why behind why she does what she does.
Yeah.
And then building the discipline around what she actually wants to achieve, because motivation, I don't believe you can rely on motivation. It can kick you into gear every now and again, but it's the consistency that builds the discipline, right? So if you need her 4, 6, 8 weeks out before the 10 weeks to be consistent at doing a certain thing, understanding that from her perspective, from your point of view on like, because that allows us to do this in week 1 a lot quicker, allows us to do this in week 2, helps her to understand. And then it is like, okay, I'm a power lifter, but although I only compete and get ready for 10 weeks a year, I do it half the year. Okay. What do I identify as outside of that?
Yeah.
And really building that belief system around, okay, I'm a fit person or I'm an athlete, but for me in that time, like I'm an extreme athlete.
Yeah.
Versus like, I'm just like Joe Blow sitting on the couch for the rest of the year.
Yeah. We see it a lot too with like, particularly, actually no, it's with everyone. Being diligent in a deficit, like during a cut phase.
Yeah.
It's like everything, every I's dotted, every T's crossed.
Yeah.
And it's like, cool, we're out for a break now and it's maintenance time. And it's just like shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
And it's like the behaviors you need in the deficit are the same as you need, whether it's in maintenance or like, particularly for the girls that like want to grow a booty or whatever. It's much more challenging seemingly to stay in that spot. So again, that identity idea of like, are you this all the time? Or is it just, like you said, is the why just to get leaner? Or is it progress over the 12 months? One thing I think I see a lot, especially with the people that we work with, again, probably similar to what we were talking about before, like the anxious high achiever kind of vibe.
Yeah.
If I go all in and it doesn't work, I failed.
Yeah.
If I kind of miss 20%, I can just blame that I missed the 20%.
It's a protection mechanism.
Yeah.
You find safety in knowing that you haven't done everything you needed to do to achieve your goal. And
it just seems like the craziest paradigm for me.
But people
like,
do
I
that.
have it.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've expressed it as well. It just like seems like it's a crazy concept to be like, I will subconsciously, deliberately not do everything I possibly could because so then I can say I didn't.
Yeah. You've got an excuse to fall back on.
Yeah.
So if you went and you stuck to the meal plan, you trained every day, you did everything and you still didn't achieve your goals.
Yep.
That's on you.
Yeah.
But what do you make it mean about you? I always bring it back to this on what do you make it mean about you? Because what you're actually discounting is, say that you want to get to 80 kilos or whatever. I'm just making up numbers, but you want to get to 80 kilos and you get to 78. And you've been doing all of these things to help you get there, but you still didn't get there. What's wrong with me? You start making it about you and the ego and what you didn't do. And you know that you've done everything.
Yep.
So the next time that you go, you need to make tweaks. You need to increase your calories. You need to do whatever the thing is that your coach says. But once we get to this point of like, okay, I'm close. I'm going to achieve this. Your mind goes into overdrive and goes, okay, if I'm going to achieve this, I'm going to self-sabotage, because if I get there and everybody knows that I've been working towards this thing, I'm going to fail in public because I didn't achieve it. And you're looking for that validation again from others instead of giving the validation to yourself. And you need to give validation to yourself throughout the whole journey, because each week you are winning. You are building muscle, you're losing fat, whatever it is for you. And being able to celebrate those successes along the way will help you to sustain it. But being okay with the result being really great or not really where you expected it is a whole different mindset shift. Being able to sit with the discomfort of, I tried really hard and I did my all and I still didn't get there. It's a lot easier to sit with the discomfort of like, well, I didn't attend like majority of the sessions and I like deliberately ate McDonald's on a Sunday, because then I can be like, oh, it must have been that McDonald's meal I had. Not actually your discipline and the mindset that you needed to actually achieve it.
How would you overcome that?
I think you really need to get always back to the why, but you need to really uncover what your fears are. What are the fears around achieving the thing that you want to achieve? There's a reason that you've said, I want this goal. And when you strip it back, is a lot of things come back to fear. And when we think about fear, it's so interesting when I speak to my clients, I can pinpoint the fear from the problem that they're actually dealing with, is that's that fear. And once we unlock that fear, you'll be able to progress forward. So for example, if you have a fear of failing in front of everyone, okay, what does success look like to you versus what does success look like to everyone else? If you fear judgment, that you might get too jacked and all your friends that aren't will be like, oh, he's so jacked, blah, 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 because they want what you have. How will you actually deal with that in real time? You're not worried about what your friends look like, so why would they be worried about you? So really distilling like, okay, is it actually fact or is it bullshit? This fear that you have around achieving the thing you want, because a lot of people have a fear of success. And actually being successful and actually being successful at the things that they set out to achieve. And I find it so interesting is that we will self-sabotage ourselves every day of the week to make sure that we don't achieve the goal that we want. But it's like, do we want that goal or do we not? And if you think about people who want to get to that 80 kilos and say they're at 75 kilos, but they know that they need to make this one little tweak, it'll be the one tweak that they ignore from their trainer. It'll be the one little tweak that they're like, but then who am I once I get to that? And it's almost an identity shift of, I am a power lifter. I am a person or whatever it might be. So you're automatically dealing with your ego, your fears, all of your insecurities are coming up, and making sure that you're able to distill like, what is the thing that I need to move past in my mindset to be actually able to continue to achieve that goal? Because I do this every 3 months for the last 5 years and I still get stuck in the same cycle.